Welcome to the deep dive. If you're joining us, you're looking for that essential knowledge, those nuggets of insight that help you navigate complexity.
And today we are really getting into a fascinating one.
We really are. We're taking on one of the most paralyzing paradoxes of high achievement, which is what happens when your elite skill meets just the sheer, terrifying weight of human consequence.
Yeah.
We're unpacking the 5-second freeze, that moment when you know exactly what to do, but your body, your mind, they just lock up.
It's that moment where the brain, it's so overwhelmed by the meaning of the situation, it just cancels the signal to the hand.
And our sources for this deep dive are, they're truly unique.
They are. They fuse this raw, tense clinical drama. It's a conversation between three doctors. It's 3:15 a.m. in an ICU break room with, of all things, ancient philosophical excerpts.
Right, specifically related to the Arjuna Vishada Yoga.
Which translates roughly to the yoga of despair and crisis.
That title alone, the yoga of despair, that feels so counterintuitive, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We usually associate yoga with calm, with unity. How can despair possibly lead to successful action?
And that is precisely our mission here. It's to provide you with a framework. We have to distinguish between being technically ready for a crisis, knowing the steps.
The algorithm.
The algorithm, exactly. And being emotionally, philosophically ready for the true weight of the responsibility. Because the sources argue that weight itself, if you don't process it correctly, that's what causes the freeze.
Even when you're fully trained.
Even then. Especially then.
So let's begin. Let's set the scene in that ICU. The dust is still settling from a code blue.
And we have three physicians, Dr. Purva, Dr. SB, and Dr. Emrit. And it's Dr. Emrit who's highly skilled, fully credentialed. He just experienced his first moment of total code paralysis.
He froze for 5 critical seconds.
The situation was textbook high stakes. An elderly man is crashing. He's in ventricular fibrillation, or VF, on the monitor. The treatment defibrillation, it has to happen now.
Immediately.
But Emrit stalled. And what broke him, according to the source, wasn't the machinery or the medicine, it was the humanity of it. He saw the patient's daughter crying, doubled over in the corner of the room.
And that just locked him up.
It did. And immediately you see this clash between the clinical world and the emotional world. Dr. Purva gives the purely data-driven take.
For her, the freeze is functionally irrelevant. Why?
Yeah.
Because the patient survived.
Right. But she emphasizes this terrifying metric. Clinically, every minute of delay in definitive care drops survival probability by
7 to 10%.
7 to 10%. So from her point of view, the freeze is, it's a statistical sin.
It's unforgiving math. But Dr. Emrit's struggle, it forces us to look beyond just the numbers. When Dr. SB asks him what happened, he says he didn't just see VF on a screen.
He saw everything all at once. That's the phrase he used.
Meaning the existential reality just hit him. This is someone's father. He might die because of me, because of my timing. The risk of failure is absolute. And he says this clarity, it crushed him.
And that's what caused the delay.
It sounds less like a technical fault in his training and more like a massive short circuit. Like he couldn't process the meaning and execute the procedure at the same time.
Exactly. And this is the necessary first insight we have to get. The question isn't if the delay matters clinically. Of course it does. But why does the freeze happen when the person literally knows the algorithm by heart?
It's existential paralysis.
That's it. It's when the sheer, accurate reality of the consequences just overwhelms the training mechanism.
And that's our pivot. This is where Dr. SP, in the source material, takes us to the ancient world. Let's introduce Arjuna.
The analogy is perfect for understanding Amrit's internal state. Arjuna, in the story, was described as the greatest archer of his age, the ultimate professional.
He wasn't just competent, he was elite.
Completely elite, trained since he was a child. He's the equivalent of our top trauma surgeon, our CEO facing a company-ending decision, a fighter pilot, technical mastery personified.
And he arrives at the battlefield of Kurukshetra, ready for this massive battle. He's there to win. He knows the maneuvers, the formations, the targets.
But just as the conflict is about to begin, just when he's supposed to draw his bow, the ancient text says he suddenly saw clearly.
So he asks his charioteer to take him between the two armies, and he looks out.
And what he sees isn't just the enemy. He recognizes the faces. He sees the profound human cost. There's his teacher, Drona, his grandfather, Bhishma, his friends, his cousins.
He realizes the true totality of the war, that it would just destroy everyone and everything he loved.
So his crisis wasn't confusion, wasn't fear of getting hurt himself. It was a sudden, painful, just incontrovertible clarity about the devastation he was about to cause.
Even for a necessary cause.
Exactly. And this clarity, it manifests physically, just like it did for Dr. Amrit. The text says Arjuna's limbs began trembling, his mighty bow, which no one else could even lift. It slips from his hand.
Mouth goes dry, mind reeling.
Yes. And he sits down in his chariot and just says, I will not fight. He wasn't refusing because he lacked skill. He refused because he couldn't bear the consequence of using that skill.
And the insight Dr. SB pulls from this is really the linchpin of our whole deep dive, isn't it?
It is.
Arjuna's paralysis wasn't because he was seeing things incorrectly. He was right. The war would be devastating.
He was completely right. His crisis came from that accurate, crushing recognition of the cost, but without having any kind of framework for how to act despite that clarity.
This is the core connection then. So whether you're a doctor, a crisis manager, a negotiator, that crushing weight you feel in the critical moment, that's actually accurate perception.
Yes, it's your conscience, your consciousness confirming the high stakes.
Okay, let's unpack this for you, for the listener. We need to define these two distinct levels of recognition, because this is where the action framework really begins to take shape.
Absolutely. The first level is what we can call technical recognition. This is algorithmic. It's seeing VF on the monitor and knowing the procedure.
Or, seeing that one line item in a spreadsheet that tells you there's a huge financial risk.
Yeah.
It's procedural knowledge.
It is. It leads to a rote correction. But the second level, the one that crushed Amrit and Arjuna, is existential recognition.
That's seeing the dying patient, the crying family, and feeling that profound personal responsibility.
It's the moral, the emotional, the social weight of the task. The technical recognition tells you what to do. The existential recognition tells you what it costs.
But hold on. I have to ask the hard question here. For someone whose father's life is on the line, 5 seconds of delay it's catastrophic. Isn't the clinical view right? Shouldn't you train yourself to be numb to that existential weight and just move?
Isn't that the goal? Just suppress it.
Right. Isn't suppression the only way to guarantee speed?
That is the crucial, painful question. It's the one Arjuna had to resolve, and it's why it took him 18 chapters of discussion to figure it out.
So it's not a simple answer.
It's not. If you intentionally suppress that existential recognition, sure, you might achieve speed, but you lose clarity. Dr. SB in the source is very clear on this. She stresses that feeling this weight is not a weakness.
It's seeing reality clearly.
It is. The problem is that most professionals, we only train for technical recognition. We assume if we feel that existential weight, that horror of the cost, that something is wrong with us, that we're not tough enough.
And what's the danger if we just keep suppressing it over and over?
Well, the sources warn us that if you don't have a framework for carrying this burden, you risk one of two things. Either severe, debilitating burnout, where you just crash from that suppressed emotional load, or worse, you actually succeed. You manage to suppress it so well that you stop feeling it entirely and you become numb.
That numbness, it sounds almost safer in a high-stakes setting.
Yeah.
Faster, less emotional.
It sounds safe, but it's a profound professional failure. The moment you stop recognizing the human cost, you stop seeing accurately. You become a technician, not a true professional.
Because your recognition guides your decision-making.
It has to. You need that weight, that clarity of the stakes to make nuanced, truly humane decisions, like what Dr. Amrit eventually did, getting the crying daughter out of the room. The weight is what reminds you why the technical skill matters in the first place.
So we can't afford to fight the feeling, but we also can't afford the freeze. The goal, then, has to be separating, seeing from paralysis, learning how to accept the weight while moving.
Exactly. That is the ultimate goal. Arjuna's path to action wasn't finding a way to unsee his family across the battlefield. It was finding a way to act with full commitment while carrying the devastation of that vision.
That is a huge task. If it took Arjuna 18 chapters of philosophy to finally move, how can we, the listener, shortcut that process? What are the essentials for moving through that 5-second freeze?
We can distill that massive philosophical framework down into 4 actionable steps, 4 principles for carrying the burden without being crushed by it.
Okay, step 1, honor the recognition.
This means you have to immediately acknowledge the weight. The moment that gut punch hits, when you realize the merger could ruin hundreds of families or the complex board decision rests entirely on you, do not suppress it.
Don't tell yourself, I shouldn't feel this way.
No, you are seeing accurately. And that accuracy is your strength because it confirms the stakes. Own it, instantly.
So if I'm a team lead and I'm confronting a major failure, my VF on the monitor, and I feel that wave of panic and accountability. What happens if I skip this and just try to jump straight to action?
You're building up an emotional debt that has to be paid later. You risk mismanaging the stress response. If you don't honor the recognition, your body and your mind, they'll rebel. It could be uncontrolled anxiety or worse, a momentary loss of fine motor skills.
You have to honor the fear because it's based on reality.
It is. Which leads to step 2, separately from paralysis.
This sounds like the critical mechanism.
It is. You have to learn to hold both truths at the same time. You see, the patient might die, and this is crushing, and at the very same moment you think, I must start the technical procedure, and now W.
So the recognition isn't a stop sign.
It's the background music. It's the accurate background music against which you have to perform your immediate duty.
Can you give us an example outside of medicine? Let's say I'm in a high-stakes negotiation, and I realize if I push too hard, the whole deal could collapse, and it's critical for my company.
Okay. In that situation, you honor the recognition. I might fail, and the cost is immense. Then you separate. I recognize the cost, A&D. I must immediately execute the next planned counteroffer, which is designed to mitigate that specific risk. The weight doesn't vanish, but you refuse to let it bind your legs.
Which brings us to step 3. Use recognition for right response.
Your existential clarity has to guide the precision of your action. It stops you from acting like a robot, just generically. Dr. Amrit saw VF, so he knew to shock. If he had seen a systole, a true flat line,
A different pattern.
His recognition would immediately dictate not wasting time shocking, but focusing on immediate epinephrine and other actions.
So in that negotiation example, the recognition isn't just we might fail. It's we might fail because the other party is focused on XYZ, so I need to pivot my language to address XYZ right now.
Precisely. The accuracy of your recognition dictates the specific, correct technical pivot. The weight ensures you treat the situation with the gravity it requires. It prevents sloppy action.
In the final step, number 4.
Accept the weight while moving. The burden of responsibility is permanent. It's real. You have to accept that. That's the lesson Arjuna had to internalize.
He didn't find a way out of the war.
No, he found a way to carry the full awareness of the devastation anyway, committing fully to the right action regardless of the internal cost. That full awareness and commitment, despite the pain, that is true mastery.
That's a powerful framework. Let's bring it back to Dr. Amrit, because we have to remember, despite that 5-second freeze, he was ultimately successful. He saved the patient's life.
And his successful recovery proves the training was intact. The blockage was existential and it was transient. His recovery demonstrates the framework in action, even if he didn't, name the steps.
We should probably highlight his full sequence of actions. It shows what mastery looks like after that initial paralysis.
Absolutely. After the freeze, he immediately ran a rapid primary survey, made sure good quality CPR was continuing, and called the right orders.
Charge to 200 joules. Prepare epi and amiodarone. The standard necessary stuff.
But the truly exceptional act was his non-clinical call, the one that speaks entirely to his existential recognition.
He has somebody get the family member out of the room.
Immediately, he recognized that the daughter needed support, not to watch her father's life being fought over. That is action guided by deep compassion and clarity.
He didn't just follow a protocol. He acted with humanity, based on the painful clarity of the situation. And the sources confirm his speed. He shocked the patient at about 45 seconds after entering the room.
And Dr. SB noted that despite the stall, this was excellent recognition and response.
His quick recovery is key. It proves that the ability to push past that profound moment is achievable. It's the hallmark of a seasoned professional.
And Dr. SB's final, quiet admission is so telling. She confided that she herself has frozen more times than she can count. And the day it stops happening
is the day she worries she has stopped seeing clearly.
Exactly. The wait, she concludes, is a necessary, continuous part of the job. It humanizes the whole process.
That's a heavy admission, especially from someone so senior. It reminds you the goal isn't machine-like perfection. It's swift, effective recovery.
Precisely. You're not aiming for a state of perpetual calm. You are aiming for a state of right action despite the accurate, gut-wrenching recognition of the stakes. That's the yoga of despair and critical action.
The initial moment of feeling overwhelmed is not a failure of character.
Not at all. It is the highly accurate, painful beginning of true mastery. You recognize the true stakes.
So we'll leave you with this provocative thought built directly on Dr. Esby's final reflection. When you face your next high-pressure moment, whether it's a medical emergency, a difficult negotiation, or a crisis in your team, instead of fighting that existential weight, What specific action can you take in the first 5 seconds to honor the recognition while moving instantly into the right technical response? See clearly, accept the weight, and then act.